I've always been the kind of person who preferred shadows over spotlights. Growing up, I didn't have many friends, and I spent most of my life glued to a screen gaming, browsing, avoiding the real world. But somewhere in my teenage years, I found a different kind of thrill, exploring places where no one was supposed to be. Abandoned hospitals, crumbling schools, graveyards at night, places that felt forgotten by time. One evening, my curiosity led me deep into the woods, chasing a location I had marked on Google Earth, a strange, isolated structure in the middle of nowhere. It took about 10 minutes of pushing through thick trees before I saw it. An old, collapsing church sitting in a silent clearing. In front of it stood a well, untouched, its stone edges worn smooth with age. I leaned over and peered inside. Darkness swallowed everything. That's when I heard it. Click. 2 seconds later, another click. It wasn't water dripping, it was deliberate, like someone tapping a stick against stone. The church doors groaned open under my hand, their sound echoing into the forest. Inside, dust floated through beams of light cutting in from shattered stained glass windows. Some pews were missing, others overturned. The pulpit at the front leaned at an unnatural angle, and behind it was an arched doorway, leading deeper into shadow. I stepped through and found a narrow hallway, lined with broken doors and thick cobwebs. At the very end, a staircase descending into darkness. Basements were my favorite part of urban exploration, but this one felt different. Something about the gaping black doorway made my chest tighten. Still, I went down. 7 steps in, the wood beneath my foot snapped and I dropped hard, landing in a pile of dirt and debris. My flashlight skittered away, its beams sweeping across the basement, and then I froze. A voice, high-pitched, distant, speaking in a garbled language I couldn't understand, except for one clear word. Hello. My flashlight found a tunnel in the far wall, crudely dug by hand. The voice was coming from inside. Against all logic, I stepped closer. The deeper I went, the louder it grew, until it stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. Then click. 2 seconds later, another click. Exactly like the sound from the well, only this time, it was much closer. I didn't wait to see what was making it. I bolted back, scrambling up the stairs, pulling myself over the broken step. I didn't even stop to grab my flashlight. Through the hallway, past the pulpit, out the door I ran. When I passed the well again, I glanced down. The clicking was gone. No wind, no birds, no sound at all. Just black, endless nothing. I made it back to my car in half the time it took to get there. I didn't visit any other locations that day. In fact, for weeks after, I avoided exploring altogether. And even now, when I think about it, I'm not sure what scares me more, the thought that it was something supernatural, or the possibility that it wasn't. This happened to me a while back, but it's still fresh in my mind. Me and my friends, let's call them John and Anthony, love spending time outdoors. One day, we decided to go fishing deep in the woods near some farmland. But before long, a farmer spotted us and started coming our way with his dog. We tried to stay out of sight, but the dog was quick to find us. The farmer warned us about trespassing, and while talking, we noticed he was already on the phone with someone. The whole situation was tense, but for some reason we couldn't help finding it a little funny afterwards. For some reason, we thought it would be a great idea to head back the very next day and check the place out again this time, sneaking onto the property to explore. It was about an hour before sunset, and the land was massive, acres and acres stretching in every direction. To get there, we had to hike through thick woods, just like the ones we'd been fishing in before. Even though we'd studied the area on Google Maps, it was surprisingly easy to get turned around. I kept telling myself, we need to be out of here before dark. At first, everything felt completely normal, nothing seemed off. We even stopped to admire the horses and give them a gentle pat, but something about it struck me as odd. For a property that big, there were only horses. I thought about my uncle's farm, which is much smaller but has all kinds of animals, not just one. I brushed it off, figuring maybe the owner just specialized in raising horses. After making our way through the woods, we finally reached the fence line of the property. John was leading, I followed in the middle, and Anthony trailed behind. That's when we came across something unexpected. a rundown old house surrounded by several classic-looking cars and a beat-up RV. We couldn't believe what we'd found and quietly walked around, taking a closer look at the cars. Off to the side, there was also an old, weathered shed that gave off a seriously eerie vibe. It was wild to see. I even took a quick video. There were high-end cars everywhere. Porsches, Range Rovers, Ford Raptors, Bentleys, Corvettes, even Ferraris. The further we walked in, the more of them we spotted. But then we noticed some of the vehicles looked stripped for parts, and that's when it hit us. Maybe we weren't supposed to be here at all. It crossed our minds that something sketchy might be going on with these cars. After checking out the cars, John got the idea to explore the inside of the old camper. Anthony stayed on lookout while I held the door for John. He's the smallest of us, so we figured he'd have the easiest time getting inside. Right away, it was clear someone had been living there. We saw fishing rods, fresh food, bedding, and a few other personal items. The camper was run down, but it was obviously someone's home, so we decided to leave it alone. Oh, and there were car tires stacked inside as well. We weren't there to break or mess with anything, just to look around. We made our way to the back of the property where most of the cars were parked. There were also a few side-by-sides, and we figured they were probably used to get around such a large piece of land. Toward the edge of the area was an old, weathered shed. When we stepped inside the back of it, a strong, awful smell hit us. We laughed it off and joked about what it could be, though deep down, we didn't really think it was anything serious. Then we heard the sound of the front gate swinging open and slamming shut. It was far off, maybe 1,000 feet away, but close enough to make us nervous. We started making our way toward the tree line, hoping to stay out of sight. That's when a van turned onto the road we were on. The sun was almost gone, and its headlights cut through the dim light. Without thinking, we bolted into the woods, unsure if whoever was in that van had spotted us. Looking back, this was probably the point when we should have called it a day, but instead, we decided to check out the other side of the property. We followed the outskirts, hiking through more thick woods, and passed even more horses along the way. Eventually, we reached what looked like the main house, though it was in pretty rough shape. About 25 feet to the right, we spotted something huge, another camper, or at least what looked like one. It was massive, nearly 50 feet long, and looked like it hadn't moved in decades. Thick vines had grown all over it, almost hiding it completely. Right beside it sat an old jet ski, also swallowed up by vines. We got the door open, but tried to keep as quiet as possible since we were so close to the main house. Even though the place looked abandoned, we didn't want to take any chances. It wasn't just about staying out of trouble for being somewhere we shouldn't, it was also because we'd already noticed some suspicious things on both sides of the property. It made me think there might be some sort of connection, and I knew that if we got caught, it wouldn't end well for us. We quietly made our way around the house and spotted what was probably the most impressive car on the entire property. Even though it was old and a bit run down, it was still an incredible sight, a Ferrari. I didn't take any pictures or video, though. We were too close to the main house, and the horses nearby were making a lot of noise, which already had us on edge. On the far end of the property, things started to feel a little uneasy. There was an old boat and, strangely, a cooler sitting inside a fridge. John checked around the boat while the cooler sat about 15 feet away, hidden in thick vegetation. We made lighthearted jokes about what could be inside, not actually believing anything serious. At that point, the mood was still playful. We were just caught up in the thrill of exploring somewhere we definitely weren't supposed to be. As we got closer to the freezer, a foul, rotten smell hit us hard. It was enough to make us stop in our tracks. We decided to back away, figuring it was better not to find out what was inside just in case it was something we really didn't want to see. The vibe instantly shifted, and we started heading back. That's when Anthony suddenly said he could hear something. We stopped and listened, trying to catch what Anthony was hearing, and then we heard it too. I can't even describe the sound clearly. Maybe it was just the normal creaks and snaps you hear in the woods, or maybe our nerves were making everything seem louder. The vegetation around us was about head high, but there was a large rock nearby. One by one, we took turns standing on it to get a better view of the property. When John climbed up on the rock, we were still joking around until his expression completely changed. He turned toward us, pale and wide-eyed, like he'd just seen something he couldn't explain. He didn't say a word. That's when I decided to get up there and see for myself. What I saw is something I'll never forget. Just above the vegetation, there was a man sitting at a table with a black cat. That alone wasn't the unsettling part. It was his face, or rather, the lack of one. No hair, no eyes, no mouth, no nose, nothing. We were about 50 feet away, and somehow it still felt like he was looking straight at us, even though there were no features to see. There was also a woman with him, and the moment our eyes met, she suddenly took off running in a direction that looked like she was trying to cut us off from the property. As for the man, I still don't know if what I saw was real, or if his face was somehow covered, maybe with white tape or bandages. All I know is that it was completely white. His head looked unusually small, and the image is burned into my memory. After that, darkness had fully set in, and we still had a long hike through the woods to get back to where we started. The whole way, it felt like something or someone was following us. At one point, we even considered taking a route that was 2 miles longer just to get farther away. Strange sounds echoed through the trees. Heavy footsteps, what sounded like galloping, and distant screams. We moved as quickly and quietly as we could through the woods, glancing back every so often to make sure nothing was behind us. Eventually, we made it back to where we started and confirmed we weren't being followed. Even now, I still don't know what we saw or if it was even human, but the memory is stuck in my head. One thing's for sure, none of us will ever go back there.